Hello, my friends. I want to welcome you to a very special episode here on the channel. You have seen a lot of my container design work, and right now I am going to introduce you to some of my landscape design work. And this is going to be a slow series on the channel because in it, that's actually kind of how landscaping is. It's not a final destination, it is a journey. So I'm going to introduce you to this new project. This is a dear friend of mine. They have a family, 2 adults and 2 boys who are, one is kind of that tween era, the other is heavily into those teenage years. And I want to walk you through how I approach design from a just really like a client focused perspective, but also a very realistic perspective. This isn't some dream, this isn't some fantasy. This is how do we create a beautiful landscape that works for them and their family and how they live and their design aspirations. So I want to flip you around and give you just a beautiful first impression of this back garden. They haven't been back here in a couple of months because they're having some exterior work done to the home, but it backs up to this incredible green belt. I mean, look at this. You cannot buy this level of maturity. I mean, it is absolutely magical back here. But this backyard was not working for the family and how they lived. I'm going to spin you around and I'm going to show you another aspect of the garden that we really needed to tackle. Okay, this is a deck still in progress. We have obviously the contractors closed off the doors leading out here for safety reasons, but this staircase ran right smack dab down in the middle of the garden, completely subdividing the space and kind of breaking it into two almost wayward halves. There was no real sense of what this backyard would become. Now looking kind of north on the property, you can see the work that has already begun. They have another contractor who has rebraced their deck here and actually extended it out to 10 feet. This was a teeny tiny 8-foot deck and it did nothing to serve the family. In fact, it was really like a wasted space. You walked out from their beautiful kitchen and you just stopped short. And so by just simply extending it 2 feet, we didn't want it to cut into the yard, but we still wanted to create a source of living space up there. All right, so one last thing is I needed the deck stairs to come down in a different direction. And this is where I heavily relied upon another contractor who's coming in to actually do the work. And what we've done is we've actually diverted all of the stairs. So not only is the deck getting 2 feet bigger all the way around, but now the deck stairs, let me actually kind of go behind me. You can see the deck stairs, they are going to come down through this side yard, and this is actually a 7-foot side yard, so it's pretty gracious for the city. And it's going to come down and it will actually land directly onto the turf, and then it will allow everyone to access and really open up this city lot. So whenever I start a design project with a client, the very first thing I do is I want to sit down and I want to get to know my client. Now, I already had the good fortune of knowing this family, but if I didn't, the questions I would ask for them are essentially, first of all, I love to see the inside of a client's home because it gives me design clues as to how they want to live and exist in their outdoor space. It also gives me a hint into their design aesthetic. The next thing, when I'm meeting with a client, I like to know what is working for them in this space. What is not working for them in this space? And I will say that it's not just about like what is pretty, but sometimes I get the best clues when a client tells me what their deepest frustrations are. For this client, they felt like the stairs just spit them out right in the middle of the garden, and it felt like an aimless space back here. It had no sense of purpose. So after we kind of go through kind of who they are and how their space is working for them right now, whether it is or it isn't, I then like to dive into who is this family? What's on their wish list? And this is really important because you are going to discover some families, a priority might be growing their own vegetables. Another priority might be hosting really large gatherings. And so for this family, things that made the top of their priority list were an area for sports. Super important. They've got 2 active boys who play club sports. And so having a proper place for them to just kind of practice, get their wiggles out, have a good time, invite their friends over, Really, really important. The other thing, they wanted a jacuzzi. And I think that is such a lovely thing for a person to know about themselves. They want a soaking area. The next thing on their list is they wanted a place for fire pit action. So they want s'mores. They want kids around the fireplace. They want a great gathering spot. And this backyard didn't give them any of that. Now, this next wish list item, I don't think they even knew was a wish list item until we started talking about the lower floor of their home. So this garden, you actually access through a lower family room. And when I asked what was beyond the sliding doors, what they told me was they have an awesome, awesome media room. And honestly, when they watch sports and they have a ton of people over for like football games and all that, it just immediately, I was like, oh my gosh, this needs to have like expansive hangout space, tons of room for people and friends. It needs to feel casual and lived in. I mean, just immediately my mind started just going with all of the excited possibilities of what we could create for this family. So we've gone through the wish list for this family and we've gotten to know them a little bit. And next up, I started tracking what the sun was doing. And you can kind of see, do you see how my head keeps going in and out of shade there? They have a really interesting property. They have behind me a really, really almost soggy wetland. I will show that to you. And then on the north side here, this is where they get their sun. So currently, they have a teeny tiny patio underneath the deck, but that over there is where they want to spend all their time because they want the sunshine in the afternoon. So that I start immediately thinking, okay, how do I want to zone this property? So step one, get to know your client, get a little wish list, figure out who they are, how they want to be in their property. Second, we start creating zones. So with all of this in mind, I knew I was going to have some challenges. I want hangout zone in the sunshine because that's going to be like perfect mid to late day hang space. It also is not underneath a canopy of trees right over there, so it's prime fire pit territory. I don't want to put a fire pit underneath a grove of trees. All right, next, we are running into soil retention or water retention back here. I'm going to show you a close-up of their soil. This actually fostered kind of the next step, which is kind of like, soccer territory, bounce back nets, baseball, all of that. I knew that for this project, their sod was really struggling, and so we were actually going to bring in turf. This is not something I do for all of my clients, but with heavy usage for sports and with dogs, turf was the option for this property. And I'm going to show you the soil conditions that helped me kind of arrive at that conclusion. So this pile right here is soil that was dug up from footings for their new deck staircase. And what I can tell you right now is this is incredibly, incredibly hard clay soil. Now, there are a couple ways that you can determine this for yourself, but I'm going to show you just a quick and easy one right here. I've got a clump of soil. And you can tell right now, this is sticking together. It's not falling apart. Next, if I were to give it a little squish like that and make a nice fist, what you see across the top is 1, 2, 3 indentations of my fingers. Here's the next clue. We have not had rain in Seattle in quite some time, and this is still holding tons of moisture. In fact, if we kind of pan over here, I don't know if you can see this, but this soil is just like not even dried out in the slightest. So the reason I bring this up is for 2 reasons. Number one, this helps support my decision to put turf in this backyard. It is also going to impact the plants that I choose to put down here. So I'm going to need plants that will tolerate slightly wet feet, and certainly nothing like a sedum that's going to want quick draining soil. So as you can see, we're starting to pull together kind of all these little unspoken clues that are going to steer us in the direction of not only what does this family need for their life to live their most beautiful, happy life in this home, but also what is actually the earth asking for me to do to support it. And it's kind of like that little triangle I always talk about. It's not only just people, but it's place and it's also plants. So we really want to like establish a nice triangle. This is like the practical point of design. You know, I can design the most beautiful space in the world, but if it doesn't serve the family, if it doesn't serve the land that it's grown on, ultimately I don't have a good design. So I really need to complete that little triangle to create an oasis that is going to speak to this family. Okay, so all that having been said, I want to walk you through the initial zoning, okay? So these steps, you know, are going to be, these are being basically removed. And what we are going to do is right here under this window, this is our new jacuzzi zone. We want it to be easy access in and access out. We've also put a waterproof coating on this deck so that you can come out here, rain or shine. So this is going to be jacuzzi zone. Now, I'm going to place a singular patio that's going to go all the way down to the corner of the property there, and then we are going to wrap here to the L shape. What this is going to allow, and by the way, we are going to put a giant cluster of pots right there in that corner to just anchor it and create some real beauty. These sliders right here lead in and out of their media room. And that window, gosh, I don't even know, like this is what is so crazy. Look at this window. It is completely obscured by plants and this giant staircase. And so by getting rid of all of this, this window, when they are not watching the game, all of that, this will actually have beautiful natural light coming in. So what this patio layout ultimately is going to do is it's going to allow for a really beautiful mingling area. In this corner, they could put a barbecue. They could put a little seating area. Back in that corner, they could put a bar cart. I mean, honestly, the world's your oyster. As they wrap here, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to replace this retaining wall right here because this is a rather petite back garden. This is a city lot. And what we have here is a rockery. Well, in a small garden, you want things to do double duty. So I'm actually going to take this and replace it with retaining wall block and put a cap on top so it is at seating height. So now the retaining wall will do double duty. It is not only a functional piece in their garden, but they can actually sit on it and enjoy their fire pit. Lastly, I'm going to actually wrap the retaining wall a little bit in this way. What that is going to allow is for their seating area to continue at an L. We're going to invest in some loungy pieces here. And right in this corner is where we are going to have a fire pit for their family and friends to gather and enjoy. Now, the other thing that we've done is I've actually come out here and I have sprayed some lines. Let's see if we can see them on the ground here. Yeah, there's all my orange spray because what I like to do with clients is I like to really walk them through the space to make sure it feels well. It feels purposeful. It feels like a space that they can utilize and enjoy. So our paver patio is going to go all the way out to this line right here. As we kind of swing this direction, what you're going to notice is we go heavy shade. And this is where the challenge of actually growing grass begins. So I'm going to walk you back here a little bit. Because I know that it is going to be an uphill battle to grow any sort of grass here, this just turns into a giant bog. We are going with turf. We're putting a really good draining base underneath. And to nestle the turf in and to make it feel purposeful, we are going to be installing a beautiful 5-foot deep border all along the fence line, because at the end of the day, we don't want this to just look like we're out on a soccer field. We want this to feel floral and inviting and lovely and echo all of like the greenery that's going on beyond it. All right, last but not least, friends, I think you remember all of my errand running from the other day, but I want to show you essentially what I picked up. So this is a Mutual Materials product. This is a Holland. This one right here is a Bellegarde product. This is another Bellegarde product. This one is the Victorian colorway. It has more brown in it. This one is the Rio colorway. It has more of like a cool gray tone. And then over here, we have two more. This one, let's bring this in. This one is a cobble in a blue, in a Summit blend. This is a Mutual Materials product. Back here is that same cobble in the gray blend, also by Mutual Material. And then last but not least, this is the Holland series in the Summit blend. And so I wanted to bring all these samples so that they could really see how it works in the space. And immediately we just eliminated anything gray. There's too much greenery, there's too much warmth out here to bring in a cold contrast. It just made it feel too modern. And this family's design aesthetic is welcoming and kind of that transitional, where it's like a hair of modern, but a lot of traditional elements and beautiful dark woods. They really love that aesthetic. And so immediately we knew we were going to bring in some brown. And then literally every single person agreed that this was the clear winner. So again, this is the Mutual Materials. This is the Holland series. And we are going to choose it in this 3-way size, which I love. And we're going to do kind of a mosaic-y pattern. I've got a couple that I've earmarked that I think are going to be gorgeous. But I tell you, bringing these pavers into the backyard, it was just an immediate full body yes. We all could 100% agree this was the course of action. Okay, now, this is where I'm going to give you a pro tip. If you live in a climate where it is rainy and you are going to see these pavers wet for much of the year, you're going to want to wet them down, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, here in Seattle, we have epic amounts of rainfall, and as such, I always want to show the pavers dry and wet. Because do you see how the colors in these blends, I mean, look at this. This blend, this summit, it just pops. Like, it is absolutely sensational. What's funny is the gray in the pavers and the brown in the pavers, I feel like they are so heightened when you get them wet. And the other cool thing about this is there are products that you can use to seal pavers, and this gives them an idea of if they want to maintain more of this wet paver look throughout the year. All right, my friends, I think that's going to do it for me. It has been lovely introducing this project to you. I hope that walking you through these steps, it's going to get you really excited about what you can possibly create in your own garden. And also will kind of reveal, if you've never done a home renovation project with a landscape professional, this, I hope, will give you some encouragement to reach out to a landscape designer in your area, have these conversations, because I think I speak for all landscape designers when I say that at the end of the day, we want to create not just a beautiful space for you, but a beautiful space that is like suited to how you live. It's not just something pretty to look at. It is something beautiful that just does nothing but enhance your life and the life of your property. So thank you so much for watching. I'm going to see you in the next one. And in the meantime, please say hello to your garden for me.